I don't really know what's going on right now. I don't know what's going on right now.
All right, Trey, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. All right, there we go.
Okay. So,
I was like, I lost them.
Yeah, all right, so sorry about that. Anyway, welcome back to MBTV, guys. Sorry, technical difficulty here, but today's topic is a very personal topic for me, and it's about the current state of human values. There's been a lot of events going on that make me think this, not any particular event, but I've been thinking about this quite a bit because we seem to have a value code. Everybody does, whether it's a code that makes no sense to others or makes total sense to others. Doesn't matter. It's some kind of code we follow. Even it's a pattern or a code that one follows. There's something that somebody does as a pattern and what they recognize in those around them. So when we get into the conversation of human values, there's so much subjective elements here. And especially when it comes to typology, because in typology, it's like if you're an ethical type, whether it's MBTI or whether it's Socionics, then you typically are reflecting on some type of value, especially MBTI, FI and FE for sure. You're adopting some kind of cultural value. Or with your own FI, you're forming your own subjective perspective on values as they pertain to the individual. So here's where it gets complicated, because when we're looking at this, somebody is going to assume that your value system is wrong. Okay. And somebody may assume that your type is different because your values are different, right? I'm not a very I don't have values. What I hear from a lot of people, other people, I'm very value oriented. For ENTJ, which is the type that I prefer, a lot of people will say that I'm pretty ethical for my type. And so this is under the stereotype and the connotation that ENTJs aren't ethical people, or they don't follow some type of ethical code. And what we tend to forget in the field of typology is that especially MBTI, is that the TE and FI function operate in tandem, just like NI and SE, or NE and SI, or FE and TI. They operate in tandem with each other, and they're complementary, one to exploit the other. Right? One to bring out the best of the other, one to encourage the other, what one is wishing to seek or yield from the other side. It's a tandem. So the challenge that we're having here is that a lot of people are confused about type because they don't understand their relationship with their own values, right? If you're value driven, then you must be an F type, right? Because you're driven by human values. This is not how it works. Okay? Human values isn't determines your type. Because I can guarantee you, every single person that I talk to, I can extract some type of value principle system. Whether it's the same as mine or not, it's a principle system that you follow. Logical system. This is your own personal values, that I'm going to adhere to this value. Or a value may be that you say something and then you must follow through because you've already committed it. You've already committed to it. That's a value. There's not very many people in the world that I would say are completely valueless. People who don't have values at all, people who have no values, people who don't believe in values, right? We're going to get into the state of human values in a little bit, but I really want to clear up this typology confusion because there's a lot of people asking me, well, I have values. I'm a good example. I don't always adhere to my values, but they're there, and I'm very aware of them at all times. I guess I must be a ENFJ now, right? Because my values are always there. And I exploit my values into reality and I push them into reality. So I must be ENFJ because my values are there. And on the other hand, another ENTJ has no values. He must be an ENTJ. There's no feeling present. Or if you look at somebody like Donald Trump, you may assume that someone like him has no values. So how can he be an F type? It's the same. No matter what it is, it's the same. So you would assume that he's a T type. We don't know, right? You don't know. As far as MBTI goes. So this gets confusing because when you go into the field of socionics, which some of you are in and some of you may not understand, it's less about values in socionics and more about emotion and relations, FE and FI, respectively. So let's keep it to MBTI for today when we're talking about values. Okay, all right, so when we're talking about the values of MBTI, it's more about how you're making decisions and coming to conclusions? Are you coming to conclusions based off of this value? It's not making decision as an output behavior, because a lot of behavior is autonomic. It happens as a result of an internal reaction or a way of training, right? So I was trained into a value system that I adhere to and it's autopilot. It's kind of how I am, because I've been trained into this system over and over and over and over again, where it's on autopilot. But is this how I'm actually forming conclusions about the world around me? Am I forming conclusions based on my series of values and going, this is right or wrong, based on what is ethical and what is not ethical? No. I'm doing it because I'm aware of the value system that I have created, or rather I was taught, and that I implement and instill and use, but I don't come into conclusions in this manner. So if you're conflicted on having values or not, it's basically you're conflicted on being a shitty person or not, right? Do I have values or not? You're conflicted on being a person with no values or low values, or not having values with someone who does have values. And it doesn't matter what the values are per se, as long as it's not, infringing on someone's personal life. But I think everyone should have some sort of value system which they follow, whatever it may be. Now, that's the point of MBTIs, especially for thinking types, is that we tend to neglect our values side. We tend to look at our values and go, okay, there are values. I'm not always aware of what those values are, but I feel a certain way about this particular human dilemma or this idiosyncratic dilemma that I'm not aware of. So the key that I think to exploit here is to understand, the key to understand from this whole point is that just because you have a very, very value-oriented side doesn't mean that you're a feeling type, or just because you feel removed from values doesn't mean that you are a thinking type, okay? Again, this is not to confound thinking and feeling with, being a thinker and being an emotional either. So a thinking type prefers to reach conclusions by the use of logic. A feeling type prefers to reach conclusions by the use of values. But it doesn't always mean that they have a very sophisticated set of values. You take a child who may have not been experienced or exposed to a series of values that prefers FE, they're probably not going to form a lot of values of their own. And they may be seemingly deceptive. So you have this aspect. Trey, do you want to add anything to this?
I'm just processing everything you said.
Yeah, so the key is to understand values. Anyway, that being said, let's talk about the more important aspect of this live show. I'm going to check for questions really quick to make sure that I'm not ignoring anybody. So let's double check on the see if everyone's there. Okay, no questions thus far. All right, perfect. So let's talk about the real state of human values where we're at today. So I'd like you guys as an audience to determine and to post your feedback as far as where you think we stand with cultural values in today's society, with our new president, the way that our family upbringing is, the way that we're raising our children, the way that our religion has formed our values or our absence of religion, the way that schools and education influence our children's values, the way that our cultural associations or our social associations are influencing our values, and what our current state of values is. Much like Trump, I would say it's a disaster. But the question that I want you guys to consider is, why may I feel like it's a disaster, whereas someone else may not feel like it's a disaster? So for me, I'll share my thoughts, and then you guys can post whatever, whenever. But I feel like it's a disaster because there's a lot of superficial aspect of what values are now. It's like a code that we're instilled to follow, we instill within ourselves, but it's shifting. It's shifting not as a culture, but individually, right? We go through these series of values that we have, and I'm not here to judge your values. Okay, the question I'm saying is it's a disaster because there's the absence of values, right? I'm living in a code. I've had so many people, Daniel included, I've had so many people come to me and tell me, we're moving in a very spiritual direction. There's a lack of connection. Maybe this is my own meta program, but I see a lack of connection, a lack of depth, a very narcissistic centered culture, I see a society that's so enamored with technology that human conversation has lost its edge. I see a society that is the artistic side of humanity as far as a whole. There's people here who are artistic, but a lot of the art that was presented in the history was because there was some overall greater purpose, right? Which is, I'm going to have this impact on those around me, or influence my children in this way, or to teach lessons. And as I've explained before, and maybe this is controversial for some of you all, but what I'm seeing is the people that are most unqualified to become parents are becoming parents, and the people that are most qualified to become parents are seeing how heavy of a decision it is and tend to delay or opt out of being a parent. And it's because whatever reason, and I say qualified, you may ask, well, what's a qualified parent? Who's qualified, who's not? Frankly, it's put narcissism or not, how narcissistic you are. Okay, maybe it's a sliding scale, all right? But when it comes to the point where you're throwing a child's life away, and you're making their life 10 times more difficult because your needs are focused on, you're depriving a child of what they need, is an offense. Not that I expect a child's upbringing to be perfect, but it's an offense on you, and it's a lack of respect for yourself and your own family, your environment. And this is my values. And some of you may go, well, I don't agree with you or whatever, but this is my values. These are the value code that I follow. And if I make the same mistake, which I'm very capable of making the same mistake, the process that's going to go through my mind is that I've failed and it's not going to happen again. I've made a mistake, and I'm not going to allow that to happen again. I am not going to do that to my child again. But the question I ask is, do people have a checks and balances system set in place for themselves? I don't see it. You realize that this new age positive reinforcement, this new age no corporeal punishment, this new age of this, no discipline, let your child do what they want, shower them with gifts, whatever it may be, I don't agree with it, right? I highly disagree with it. Now, again, this is my values. I'm going to do it my way. Not that the parents that are doing these or not doing these things are incorrect. It might work in some circumstances, but as a whole, I don't think it's effective. Right? And there's a lot of studies out there that may prove or disprove how effective or ineffective it is. This is my own personal opinion. But that's one example of where I see it as a disaster. Another thing that I see is total discrimination. Not discrimination in the sense of race, but discrimination in the sense of, let's look at even the type community, right? If you post something that is a controversial opinion, for example, somebody may say Donald Trump's a ISFP, right? You post something like that in the Facebook area, you're going to get ripped and eaten alive by people. And to this point where your opinion is no longer valid. There's a rule that I follow in my life, despite if I agree or disagree with you. Like, despite this, my rule is very simple. I'm going to treat you as I treat everyone else, as I expect to be treated. Right? So it's very simple. It's golden rule. Right? Treat others as you wish to be treated yourself. And this is my current philosophy. So if this is my core philosophy, as someone who generally presents themselves with force, right? How do you think I'm going to present myself? How do you think that I'm going to present myself to you? Am I going to be mean, ruthless, bold, direct, blunt, on purpose? Am I going to do it to be cool? No. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what I do, and I'm going to treat you exactly how I want to be treated myself. I make mistakes. I constantly make them. I make them every day. I may accidentally ignore somebody. I may be distracted. I may look at my phone because it goes off. I mean, the natural, but it's like I have this background thought in my head like, that's rude. Don't do that. That's disrespectful. Don't do that. Right? So these are the things that cross my mind. The question I ask is, are there these things crossing other people's mind? Are these things actually happening? How important is etiquette? I mean, Trey's lived with me for, 3 months, 4 months, and he knows that I'm a big fan of etiquette. Table etiquette, etiquette with other people, respect, those type of things are very important to me. Why? Because I want people to treat me with respect. It always reflects back on how I wish to be treated. So why would I abuse power and treat someone like shit? Why would I abuse force and treat someone horribly? Like I said earlier, I align closest with SLE and Socionics so far, and the dominant function is the force function. But if I have a very strong ethical code, which sits in the back of my mind, how do you think that affects me? Do you think that I'm going to be as ruthlessly ruthless if I have this code in the back of my mind that says, don't treat people like shit. Don't treat people as you wish to not be treated, right? No, there's not that code. Treat people as you wish to be treated is there in my mind, and it sits there. So even if I do use force, as it's natural for me, the response that I hear is a feedback that goes, you probably shouldn't have done that. Afterward, it catches me after. And then I correct. And over a period of time, for the last 14 years, I've done this over and over and over again. And I've learned to be a lot more considerate to people. So instead of being a jackass, right? So the point is, we all learn. We're human potential is dynamic. So that's my point here. There's too much dynamics to say for certain. If you're looking at somebody, especially with MBTI, I know what type that person is. Trey's been a mystery for a lot of people who type people, right? Trey's a mystery. Some people type him as an INFJ. Some people type him as an INTJ. Some people typed him as an ENTJ. Some people typed him as a ISFP. Some people typed him as a, what else did they type you as?
INTP.
ENTP, INTP. There was no certainty. There's no consensus, right? Why do you think it was difficult to type Trey? Well, if you take a look into his past, you'll find out why it's difficult to type. Just like my past, the last 12 years, right? The ethical code that sits in my mind. And how did this ethical code come to be? Well, I'll tell you. This is the story, right? So when I was 12, I can't remember anything really before 12, so it's sort of challenging. But when I was 12, I kind of got this point where I was like, life needs to change. But I kind of got really independent, fierce. I'm going to face reality as it is. I'm going to train. I'm going to work out. I'm going to do what I need to do to protect myself and become as strong as possible so I can meet all opposition with force. And I did. And then when I turned 18, I took on a mentor. And this particular mentor said, you have no values. Well, you have low rent values is what he called them. He said, you're like trailer park. And at first it didn't register. Like, what do you mean I'm trash? Like, I don't understand what are you talking about? Like, I feel like I'm a good person. He's like, I don't give a shit if you're a good person. He's like, your values suck. And he's like, and you treat other people like shit. Okay. So for 8 years, I was drilled on this new value system. And it reshaped my entire psychology. This fierce, young, controlling individual to a more human individual, into a more considerate individual. And the point I'm making is that were instilled by someone else, so you could call that FE if you want, right? But they made sense to me. They were logical. They were entirely logical. It was a cause and effect. I looked at it and I go, that has this direct effect. I can't behave that way anymore. Right? I'm not ignoring. And MBTI, you don't ignore the other side. You know it's there, it's present. Right? It's a moving past where you think you're fixed. I've had a lot of people tell me on the YouTube comments lately that I'm getting too emotional, or I'm getting too FI. And the reality is that what the hell is the point of living if you aren't human? Right? What's the hell is the point of living if you don't express yourself? You don't understand the human element, right? It's about saving humanity is what it's about. Saving humanity within yourself, and that's where it starts. You are a representative of something beautiful, which is humanity. The hell, we don't have to be robots. We were blessed or given or created or evolved. It doesn't matter. We were given, or we have something amazing, right? And it's humanity. Nothing, no one, no animal has this. And if you can, I've always seen humanity as this amazing thing, all through history. So it makes me sort of recognize and appreciate that there's this element in reality that we have a human side. And for me, I'm going to value it more because I suck at it. Right? I suck at the human side. I can't play music for crap. I can't even hear lyrics in songs. I can't really understand a lot of artistic stuff. I look at art and I'm like, okay, that's cool. But in the back of my mind is like, wait, hold on, slow down. What's the meaning behind this particular piece of work? Right? And so with time, I've studied art and I've tried to get better at it. And that's just one element. Those are representations of humanity. Whereas other people, they pick it up so naturally. It comes so smoothly. It comes so, and I'm envious a lot of that. For me, it's knowledge that comes like that. I mean, textbook knowledge. I pick up a book and I remember the facts and it stays. Systems come to me very simple. And this is not me boasting. This is the reality. I suck at this human side. So my brain naturally goes to facts, data, systems, things that make sense to me. But I still yearn for the human side. Why should I limit myself to being only a logic user? Or why should I limit myself to being a feeling user? Or why should I limit myself to be value only and no logic? Right? We have a potential and we need to maximize that potential, whatever that potential may be. And I'm not talking about in the career. I'm talking about embracing who you are on the inside, the unlimited power that's within. And that starts with embracing all aspects of yourself, learning to respect all those aspects of yourself. Okay, so instead of just trying to look at all the defense mechanisms that we put up and have to be a certain way because I'm ENTJ, so I'm going to be a dick, right? That's not right. Or I'm ISFP, so I can be a dumbass because TE is my fourth function. That's not right. I don't have to be logical. To me, that's annoying. When I see somebody who has TE or TI at the fourth slot, it's like they tell me that logic is useless. No, it's not. Logic is not useless, and neither are values, neither are human emotions. They're not useless. It's annoying to me when I see people rejecting that aspect of themselves and saying that logic is useless or this is useless. No, it's not. It's going to help you. Just like me moving into the human element. That's what this whole channel has been about. That's how it started. It started with me expressing a lot of the human element of things because it's been a journey for me. I'm not a spring chicken like a lot of you people out there. I'm not super old, but I'm getting up there. So I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to recognize other aspects of my character. It's no longer about being just a ENTJ according to the description and forgetting people's values on purpose because I don't need them. I used to feel that way. I still sometimes find human emotions really confusing. I still find emotions confusing. I still find trying to take care of emotions confusing. And sometimes I still make mistakes and then I'm like, oh shit, I should have said that too late. So anyway, Trey, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I was just going to add a thought that I've had for a while about why this all came here in the first place, and where I've seen things headed. So, for me, like it seems like 2 generations before, like people had these traditions and these like these rules that they followed, and there were really good reasons why they did follow them. But then the next generation down is like, they stopped teaching it. It was more like they put it off kind of to the side, like, oh, you'll understand this later, and so when they did that, the next generation didn't really understand why they were doing what they did, but still seemed to do it because it was a big part of society. Of course, some people didn't do it, some people did. It's kind of like in between. And then what happened was a year later, this is all just my thoughts about this, but it seems like a year later, nobody was being taught because nobody knew why we were doing these things. And the knowledge wasn't really sought after. So then what it seemed like to me, so a lot of kids would go to the internet and like there was this information like all gathered in one place. And I think when it comes to like what kids want to do and why they want to do it, there's a lot of like, it's really interesting, a lot of defense mechanisms, a lot of go-to go to excuses and stuff like that that you can see on the internet that are on Instagram and on these different social media that I think people use quite a bit to get what they want. And so they no longer have to create these excuses or whatever to get by their parents. But what happens is they have these collected ones, and they want to do something, and they say, oh, hey, mom, dad, I want to do this. And they say, no, you should probably be doing this. And it's probably something traditional. There's probably a reason why they shouldn't be doing that. But they ask why, and the parents can't answer because the parents weren't taught. They just picked it up because it was a big part of society at the time, didn't really learn it, don't really understand it, and didn't really pass it on. And so I think that now we're in a state of a bunch of people being completely sort of stripped of these values. And I think what happens next, personally, I think that the next generation down, it's going to be more about it's going to be important that everyone's going to be like understanding, trying to understand where these values come from, like what they are. I think it's going to happen naturally over time that they say, what is it? Why is all this chaos happening? Why is everything going wrong? Oh, I think it's because we're not doing this. There's no this. There's no that. And I think that's what a lot of people are going for now. Like, I think that people are recognizing that these lack of traditions and lack of values are causing problems in their everyday lives. Especially here at MBTV, we've talked about a lot of stuff like that. You know, a lot of stuff that has to do with just us. We have pain, and there's things that we're dealing with that we don't recognize the consequences of where it all leads up to. And Enneagram has taught us a lot about that. But I just think that, you know, over time, people are going to start recognizing that a lot of these values and a lot of the issues that they're having are coming from this separation, this lack of connection, these values that they haven't integrated into their lives to make life more rich. And so personally, I think that that's what people are going to be seeking for in the future. I think it's going to be very important because right now it seems like everyone's scared. Everyone's, you know, throwing everything around. They're like, it just seems like everyone's confused, everyone's hurt. So I think that over time, like pretty soon, people are going to be they're going to see those values as important and trying to understand them. But I don't think it's going to happen with this group that we've got now. I think it's coming afterwards. I could be wrong though. It's just a thought.
Yeah, I'm not much into the prediction side, but I see the current state and I see what's going on. So, and I think a lot of it starts with personal power. We in the type community, I apologize for our childish behavior because we're supposed to be about personal developments, but we are some of the rudest pieces of shit on the internet. And I mean this, like, we really are. Like, as a whole community, we treat each other like crap. What is that? Right? Oh, it's because I prefer thinking I can treat Trey like shit, right? That's okay now because he accepts the fact that I can treat him like shit because I prefer thinking. So I can just treat him like shit.
Oh yeah. Don't worry about him. He's just a thinking type.
Yeah.
Dom.
So we're using these types as a way to justify behavior, but this is not just limited to the typology field. This is limited to all fields. This is limited to not only all as in all, but I mean a majority of fields. Right? We can find these criteria that allow us to justify or rationalize our own behavior in certain things. And to me, that to me is limiting your growth potential. Right? And so for those of you who are struggling with values, I recommend that you find out what it is what is important to you. Okay, and you find out what impact you can have on those around you or the world around you or the things around you or whatever it may be. And some of you, you're not going to naturally even like this idea because you don't value values, right? You don't think they're necessary. But you're missing out on an amazing experience of human potential, humanity. And I really feel that. I feel like you are missing out on your own growth. And I know a lot of people who are incredibly intelligent, way smarter than I am, who are miserable. They see no point or purpose in humanity, human existence, the universe. They can get very depressed even talking to these people, yet they're brilliant. And it's because they never really embraced their own humanity. They never really accepted their own aspect, their own aspect of their own humanity. They never really come to terms with themselves. And that's where the real trick is. It's just to make sure that you balance out, and I don't mean balance as in once they're equally strong, but balance out and learn to embrace your shadow, respect the other side of the darker side of you. If you can learn to respect that aspect of you and go, okay, I have these negative things that I see as negative, or bad things, or not good things, or whatever darker side of me that comes up, or values that I don't really appreciate, or logic that I think is cold and ruthless. Stop telling yourself that it's okay, and start telling yourself that you appreciate those things regardless of what they are, and try to become one complete person instead of going, I reject that side. I reject my human side. Screw humanity, right? Or screw logic. Logic
screw love, screw relationships, screw connection.
Yeah. So screw all that. Screw everything. Right. So relationships, love, and all that may be one person's, gold and another person's trash, whatever. But
I mean, it goes on.
I'm talking about what's internal.
Relationships, responsibility.
Part of humanity, though, is the connection aspect of connecting with other individuals, right? And that's a big part of it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be intimate or romantic, but it is a huge part. I've been convinced the majority of my life that romance wasn't a thing for me. And whether this was a defense mechanism or a way out or a fear or an anxiety or whatever the hell it was, or just me not being ever putting really much thought into it, I didn't care that much, right? I really didn't have much care other than the fact that when I found myself in a romantic situation, it sucked to lose it, but I didn't really think about it past it. After it was over, I was like, okay, and then move on. And that was it. So my point is there was an aspect of humanity that was different in that particular situation than other aspects. So enjoy it, accept it, appreciate it while it's here, because it doesn't always last. Trey, anything to add?
No, you made really good points.
Which one stands out?
We were just talking about, man.
So anyway, somebody posted something interesting here in the comments that we're making huge leaps and bounds with technology.
He saved me.
Understanding about throwing away everything that discovered as a species when it comes to values, trying to start from scratch. It's baffling. Yes, I'm in full agreement with that. It is baffling, but we're actually getting smarter as a culture. I mean, these young kids are way smarter than me as far as technology, speed of technologies. You guys, lightning thumbs on text. I don't even know how you do it. Like, I'm getting to the grandpa status, like talking into my phone because I can't keep up. Or I one-handed text really, really slow, or I don't text at all, which is my preferred method. Ignore the shit out of your text, which is my favorite part. Anybody who knows me knows that I tend to ignore the crap out of text messages. And it's like, if you want to talk to me, call me. And I'll answer most of the time unless I'm doing something else or I'm driving my really loud car and I can't hear the phone. But for the most part, I will try to answer your phone call because there's a point of connection that I feel is necessary. Now, obviously, I'm a jackass at times, and I usually want a phone call to have a purpose. You're like, hey, how's it going? Okay, get to the point. What do you want? So that's the jackass part of me. So part of me understands that some people just genuinely want to check on you and see how things are going, and I'm trying to help change that side of me to be more appreciative of these people because they are reaching out to me to check on me. Because what's ironic about it, the paradox part of this is that I do the same thing. I check on people with no agenda. I just want to see how they're doing. But when they do it to me, I'm like, okay, what do you really want? What is it that you're skeptical? I'm very skeptical of their intentions. And generally, it's not even that I'm skeptical or suspicious of their behavior. It's just I want to get to the point because I got other things to do. So this is me neglecting the human value that's being thrown my way. And I've taken these things for granted so many years of my life, and now that time is beginning to change. And that's where we're at with that, is making sure that we are trying to change the elements of ourselves, not necessarily getting obsessed with the change, but the change really happens as a result of you embracing the parts of your character that you hate the most, right? the internal conflict. Because I can tell you, my internal conflict is it's like the seven-year war. It's just constant. It's just going on in my head constantly. There's a battle here, battle here, battle here, battle here, and it wears me out. What am I fighting myself for all the time? What's the right way? What's the wrong way? What does this have to be done? How is this being done? A lot of people say, well, just go with your nature. But I'm not a freaking koala bear. I was blessed with a mind, just like everybody else watching this video was. Unless my dog is watching this video. But I'm not a freaking koala bear. I'm not going to just go with the flow. I'm going to learn how to maximize my time here. And hopefully before the day I hit a coffin or the day I hit the grave, I've influenced somebody in some way, in some positive way. Right? That's more important to me. Influencing the future, the kids, the children, the young people watching this video, maybe some adults, maybe some older people, maybe some people who are struggling. Maybe there's just one thing I said that really helped them click. Those are important to me. More important than anything I've ever accumulated in my life is being able to contribute value to other people. And that's going to be a constant. That's never changed. Even when I was young, broke, and had nothing, I felt like a lot of times I had nothing to offer other than my mind. I didn't have any money, couldn't offer food, so what the hell could I do? I could just talk. So that's where we're at with this. The current state of human values. The question is, this is a very open-ended video, which is there is no absolute. We don't know the current state. My opinion is it's disastrous, right? But that's my opinion. You may have an alternative perspective. You may be around people who have just amazing values, and you just think that humanity is moving in a positive direction. I'm more cynical. I'm aware of that, though. I'm a pretty cynical person when it comes to humanity as far as people's values go. I find that the majority of people that have been in my life, past, even present, have not had a set or quality standard of values to the point of, and I say not have or set quality. This is even me comparing with my own values. And this is me being an asshole by saying that people, they don't have values because they don't fit my own values. So I need to stop doing that. So you recognize these things are happening. And why did I say this? Why did I just check myself? Right now, I just checked myself. I probably shouldn't do that. It's because I'm recognizing that I'm not being fair to people, right? I'm not being fair in the sense, and the world's not fair, granted. But would I want someone to immediately reject me because my values are different? So it kind of crossed my mind, like, I probably shouldn't say that because I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. So having a set of values actually can serve as a very, very beautiful safety net because you recognize that you might have crossed the line somewhere. Why go through life with ignorance and obliviousness? Why do you have to be oblivious? Because Carl Jung said so? Because the Russian dude halfway across the world who doesn't know you said so? Because Enneagram masters who did wall paintings in caves said so? No, you're in control of your destiny now. The hell are you going to do with it? The power is yours. You have unlimited power in your heart. We all do. It's there. It sits there right now, and it's untapped. It's untapped in me. It's untapped in Trey. It's untapped in the rest of you watching this video, whoever's watching this video at any time. How do you cultivate that? How do you yield that power is by coming to terms with yourself and different parts of yourself. That's what this is about. The values. Right? But if your values aren't, if it doesn't include personal development, you probably don't give a shit. Probably not even watch this video anymore. If your values include Sammy petting himself, and you see, there he is, petting himself. All right, so point is, if your values include that, then there you are. He looks like he's enjoying life a lot more than even I do. So point is, you got to have a series of values that ultimately move you in a direction that are making your life more fulfilling, right? That's the key here. That was the take home of today's video. That is what I wanted to get across, that don't ignore the side of humanity. Be that one person in your circle of influence who goes, you know what? We may not have the same values, but what are your values? Do a value drill. Sit down with a friend or two and go, hey, what are your values? What are things important to you? As far as the family culture goes, as far as education goes, like I said earlier, do those drills. Do it with yourself. Do it with a friend. Do it with a spouse, a loved one, a family, a father, son, whatever the case. And learn to appreciate human difference. because that's what creates the experience, right? If we're all the same, we're just another animal, another drone. What part of humanity is our differences. Trey, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that even when even when Damon was saying something about values and then said, "Oh, but I just contradict myself," or "Oh, I need to consider whether or not I'm acting as if my values are superseding over someone else's." Just the thought or the idea or the focus or the consideration that you may have, that you could be doing things better, or that you could be considering others. That's what MBTI has been about. It's not about like, because it almost doesn't make sense. Like, you're doing this call as if you have some kind of authority over it, and yet you still contradict yourself. Well, it's not about that. It's about the thought that it's like a reminder. Like, make sure that we keep focus on it. Make sure that we continue to attempt to improve. That's what MBTI is about, is trying to find ways to do that, but also just serving friendly reminders.
All right, so guys, we're going to wrap up this call with that, and hopefully this is leading into another category. But I just want to give you a quick update with everything else that's going on with the channel. I will continue to do MBTI, Socionics, updates of videos. I'm swinging back into gear now. I'm recovering finally from the Black Plague. So I am starting to come back. I'm not quite there yet, so I'm still in recovery. But so I'm just letting you guys know that expect some new content coming out, and we're going to be moving forward. And 2017 is going to be an awesome year. So, Trey, anything to add?
Just thank you guys for joining the call.
All right, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.